Hello everyone, welcome back to another JoinAgile video. Busy weeks, I know, I promised videos every fortnight and it didn't happen. I do apologize to my audience and I appreciate everyone who has just joined the channel. Our latest video has had very warm kind of reception from you guys. I received a lot of messages on LinkedIn, a lot of likes, a lot of support. Thank you very much for this. Definitely not taking it for granted, just very busy. JoinAgile is very busy in the background. Portal is kind of going full steam ahead. There are a lot of features being added. If you don't know what I'm talking about, joinagile.com/portal. If you're a recruiter, if you're an individual, both types of the user can benefit from this professionally. But aside from that, the publication of the book obviously happened. That's kind of me catching you up, kind of on the latest and greatest. What do I have for you today? Today I thought I'm going to go back to one of the always popular topics among Agilists, among people who are looking to pivot into our professional space, people who are just becoming Scrum Masters, people who are just trying to become better Agile coaches even and trainers, because we learn from each other, we listen to how another professional is explaining a certain topic, even if it's a relatively basic one, and we do learn. So this is what I thought I'm going to offer you today, and I'm going to dig deep and reach into the kind of my own archive of variety of materials, which I certainly have, and some of them are packaged as audiobooks. And once again, I appreciate support from those who are buying those books and supporting JoinAgile. So I'm going to give you a chapter from an audiobook from one of my previous audiobooks, not the latest one, but the one that's called Agile and Lean, and what do they mean? Yep, it's a great slogan. I know, okay. You can search, I'm joking. You can search on audible.com or most of the other online retailers of audiobooks for the full book, if you're interested for more kind of all-rounded content rather than this just one chapter. However, it's not just a fluffy video, so to speak, but it is something of value, I hope, because I'm offering you a fairly clear, high level, but fairly clear explanation of what a product backlog is. What does it mean to write good user stories? Very brief introduction into Agile Personas, acceptance criteria, kind of related topics. Because the material is audiobook source, so ultimately my face is going to disappear from the screen for a bit, for about 15 minutes, that the chapter is long. So you're most welcome to just, do your housework, crank me up in the background, turn up the volume, listen to the chapter of this audiobook like a podcast, as a podcast used to run. But certainly it's not really a podcast anymore per se. But I do hope that you enjoy the material, benefit from this, and maybe stay after the video is over. Stay to the last kind of few minutes, because I'll be making a couple of other little announcements which probably would be of interest to you, because some more interesting stuff is yet to come. So this is not just a kind of prefix to the video, but there will be also a suffix, so to speak. All right, guys, I hope you're having a great day there, and please enjoy the video and learn about the backlog. Writing good user stories. Agile and Lean, as terms, loosely label professional mindsets and cultures that enable new ways of working for a lot of organizations and individuals these days. Those new ways of working are ultimately revolving around optimal delivery of customer value, which in its turn most commonly appears presented in some form of a product backlog, a construct that we've mentioned already in previous chapters. Perhaps repeating myself a little bit here, product backlog is a living artifact that exists in Agile for as long as a product exists. It contains a multitude of items that basically describe everything that needs to be done to deliver that product, maintain it, or make it better. One of the most widely known types of backlog items, capturing individually valuable small pieces of work that help build that abstract product, are user stories. I've decided to single user stories out of the whole lot of possible product backlog items because of their overwhelming popularity strongest association with all things agile, and rather large room for being misunderstood, poorly formed, or simply misused when trying to create a healthy product backlog. So let's take a closer look at them, shall we? User story is a short, simple description of a function or a feature, told from a perspective of the customer who would be ultimately benefiting from it. It is usually formatted as a someone, I want to do something so that something happens. For example, as a registered user, I want to view my dashboard so that I can tell what happened. So we can see that I am defining here a certain user group or a certain specific persona, agile persona, that is benefiting from a certain functionality being developed. So I'm mentioning agile personas. This is what ultimately often misses from definition of good user stories. That persona becomes a little bit, people forget that we are representing a user really in those stories. We are trying to capture the user's need ultimately. So I am going to emphasize the fact that development of those personas usually is preceding any sort of delivery cycles of the actual project that you may be running or might be involved in as a developer, tester, or in any other capacity. Personas usually get developed by user experience and customer experience professionals with, in conjunction with, I guess, product people, those people who are running your product line, product management, product owners ultimately as well. So persona is a fictional representation of a target customer or a user group that you can use to help guide decisions about product features, navigation, visual design, and a lot more. Development of those personas relevant to your business, to your product, is one of the cornerstones of user-centered design approach and one of the underpinning kind of pillars to create solid, good, readable, valuable user stories. The development of these personas can be summarized as figuring out four main things. First of all, facts. For example, factual information about users, consumers of your product. For example, demographic. Figuring out their pains. So, for example, clearly stating, trying to summarize the problem that you as a group believe that your solution, your product solves for this customer, for this user group. Then you could also focus on figuring out behaviors. So, for example, capturing some behaviors that are specific to that customer or to that user group and that they exhibit now because they do not have access to your solution yet. And finally, analyzing the goals of that user group, of that customer. What goals are they trying to accomplish so that your solution will make it all better for them? This will help you create some resemblance of those personas, things that you possibly have heard of, something similar to, this is John, he's 35, he drives a car to work, so he requires comprehensive car insurance perhaps on his car. So things like that, with a lot more detail, of course. I'm just trying to be brief here. So when we're coming back to user stories as the main topic that we're discussing here, having solid personas, which are very clearly understood by the group of people who are forming that product backlog, prioritizing features that your product will contain and that your backlog will have. So when you're writing those user stories, understanding of those personas, I think is one of the kind of ultimate things that need to be done up front in order to ensure transparency, clarity in your decisions, and just ultimately even drive goals, such as sprint goals that your team will be working on. A good user story is classically, once again, bear with me, classically is believed to comply with a model that is known as INVEST. INVEST model. It is an abbreviation. First letters basically of independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and finally testable. That's what INVEST stands for. Independent speaks for itself. It says that the item, the user story, should be self-contained as much as possible, so that there are as little as possible dependencies. Ideally, We know, all of us know, I know, you know, that not many stories are actually that way in the real world, in the real life scenario. There are usually dependencies on the stories, but this is something to strive for. Negotiable means that these items, these stories are not explicit contracts, and basically they should always leave room for collaborative discussion with the team, product owner and the team, and some sort of negotiation. Valuable? Well, the item must deliver value to stakeholders. Otherwise, why are you even investing any time and prioritizing around developing that story? Estimable? It means that any item worthy of being a user story really in the backlog and prioritization should be able to be sized by the delivery team. It means that they should be broken up, those stories, sufficiently, I suppose, and have sufficient amount of information on them that when presented to the delivery team, they could say, okay, well, this will take us 5 days. Stuff like that. Small, as I said, breaking down work ultimately into reasonably small chunks creates a much smoother flow of that work. So when you create items that are, form user stories that will be small enough to describe, size, plan, prioritize, and ultimately fit into one sprint, this is what one of the very important actually, and probably one of those not replaceable qualities that a good user story should possess. Finally, testable. Items description and acceptance criteria that we're going to be talking about in a second, they usually create a good foundation for test planning, for creation of test plans, and they make test development possible. Again, in the classic definition of what user story stands for, you often is a reference to the 3 C's. 3 C's. It's a card, conversation, and confirmation. By card, we mean that classically, before we started very broadly using online, various online collaboration tools, stories are usually physically written on index cards. It is done deliberately so that it remains small. The story remains small. It's not a document, full-on document. So all we say is, as a registered user, I want to have a login form so that I could access my personal information, for example, right? It is small, it's clearly worded, it's very easy to understand. Conversation suggests that details, further details, like sure, the more you know about the story and the more information you can attach to the record of your story in your online collaboration tool, perhaps, the better. But as far as the cards are concerned, physical story cards are concerned, details are revealed through conversation with the product owner. Developers are encouraged and testers are encouraged to ask product owner questions where some details are revealed further about the story. For example, in this story of a registered user who wants to have a login form, you could have a conversation with the product owner where the developer would say, hey, did you want me to add the remember me checkbox on the login form as well? And product owner might say, yes, I definitely would like that. So that's your conversation. Confirmation in this particular case refers to acceptance criteria, or often being referred as conditions of satisfaction. What are those? Those are really bullet points. They can be also formally phrased, as we will talk in a second about. But ultimately, these are just clearly defined user, product owner's perception of what needs to happen in order for them to say, yes, this story has been implemented and is working as I expect it to work. For example, in particular, this example of a story that we are talking about, we could say the form has 2 fields, username and password. It passes validation rules as per perhaps attached table of, separately attached table of validation rules, which will never fit into a user story. There could be description of some other functionality, like more specific. Ticking remember me instantly logs in the authorized user upon further visits. Remember me invalidates after 3 days. Things like that. The classic or more formal definition of acceptance criteria that I mentioned goes as given, when, then. For example, given some precondition, when user does something, then we expect something to happen, and then you can optionally add and further conditions. So given the user is logged in, when they click on the navigation item number 1, then we expect the dashboard to appear and
the user should see their transactions on the dashboard. User stories usually represent the functional, meaningful, small enough but still valuable chunks of work that have been broken down from a larger piece, which could be features, which could be epics that are sitting above user stories in that hierarchy, if you like. So stories are usually children of something that's been broken down in the work nesting model. But when we talk about work breakdown, what I'm trying to get to here is that you need to break down work into stories that are, as I said, according to invest model, they are small enough, yet still valuable, and meaningful kind of, so that we deliver something that is of value to the customer. What I often do is I compare slicing or breaking down that work, slicing the user stories to deliver workable value, as I compare it to a burger. So imagine a burger that has multiple layers in it. It has a bun, obviously, it has lettuce, it has tomato, it has the patty, it has possibly cheese, maybe something else. So if you think about it, when we take a bite of that burger, it would taste, well, traditionally, some people have their own preferences, but traditionally it would taste better if you take a bite of the whole lot through all of these various layers to get a little bit of bun, a little bit of patty, a little bit of cheese, a little bit of lettuce. So the idea is, when we're trying to explain how to best slice your stories, especially for the product owners, especially for people who are working on that backlog, but it doesn't mean that developers or testers cannot assist with that proper slicing. In fact, they're encouraged to provide their insight into this. The idea is that when you create a good, solid user story, you're trying to embed multiple slices of your solution into it. For example, if we're talking about software, you try to slice the story in such a way that each story, or most of functional ones, they have a little bit of user interface, a little bit of code infrastructure, perhaps a little bit of application interfaces, a little bit of platform architecture, perhaps. What it enables us to do is then it enables us to just be true to that iterative nature of delivering value to the customer frequently. Then we're able to release into production potentially a few stories that have a little bit of everything, that deliver value, they're self-contained as much as possible. Because imagine if you delivered too many stories that are just, say, platform architecture, or just user interface that is not connected to anything, nothing is happening, there's no data in there. Those stories by definition are not valuable. Small stories help you, they really help you. They help you validate your assumptions earlier, they help you learn faster, certainly deliver work more often and complete it faster. Be more in sync with other teams, perhaps, if you have other teams working in parallel to your team that works on certain stories. It allows for faster prioritization of work because it's just easier to understand the value of those individual stories as long as they're not too huge. Have more business options, decrease the risk because you're not investing too much time into delivery of that story, and kind of simplifies, I guess, the whole planning process and helps keep your customers happy.
There you go, my friends. I really hope you enjoyed this little audio thing, audio kind of recording of one of the chapters of Agile and Lean and what do they mean, audiobook, and I hope you learned something, okay? If you think that you have some perhaps less educated in Agile, in all things Agile, friends and colleagues, you perhaps would consider maybe subscribing, maybe liking, maybe just sharing this video with them, and that would help us grow and that would help your friends as well. So that would be much appreciated. Now, to the little announcements, something that I saved deliberately till the end point of this video, because I would like to reward only people who are motivated enough to support JoinAgile and at the same time who have some motivation and attention span to stick around until the last moments of the video. So remember how in one of the previous videos when I was announcing the audiobook that's going to be released, and it was released, so you know, the Agile Coaching book, I said that those people who will show support and those people who will buy the book on Audible, they will receive some sort of a, you know, perhaps I didn't have a firm kind of picture in mind of what I would offer you, but I was thinking it's going to be like a free maybe attempt at passing Lean-Agile Certified Practitioner certification on JoinAgile Portal. Well, I'm very happy to now offer it to you officially in, again, a fairly loose format. because everyone is consuming audiobooks very differently. So I am not going to restrict you into what you have to do, like go to Audible and have a receipt of downloading the book and email me the receipt. That would work, by the way. That would work. I don't care. So you can reach me on LinkedIn. You can reach me on podcast@joinagile.com. You can reach me on hello@joinagile.com, which is the main email address of joinagile.com. But essentially, if you would like to highlight the fact that you did download the book, you did enjoy it, perhaps, hopefully, and you would like to receive your additional free attempt at passing LACP certification on joinagile.com/portal to qualify yourself as a much more prepared senior Agile practitioner who has additional knowledge, who has something that recruiters hopefully will start recognizing more and more and more the more I work with them in the background. What do you think is keeping me so busy? That would be most welcome. So email me a screenshot, anything you like, whatever you think is appropriate. It could be a mobile screenshot, could be something that would be suggesting that you have, in fact, bought the book, the Agile Coaching book, the latest one. And tell me in the email or in your message on LinkedIn, what is your username? What do you use to log into JoinAgile portal as you've self-registered as an independent candidate? Yeah. So this LACP thing, I'm not just repeating it here because there's plenty of videos on the channel, and there is information on joinagile.com itself. Just go and have a look, okay, if you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you have registered as an independent candidate on joinagile.com, if you tried the test with registration, you get one free attempt that's still being granted to you for free. You are not allowed to, it's against the terms of service to generate multiple accounts for the same name. Anyone who did it, I see you. I am going to restrict this going forward. Perhaps I'm not going to punish those who have already done it, because I know people were excited. That's fine. But going forward, it's not going to work. Okay, guys, like even if you slip through, I'm going to retroactively remove your records or awarded certifications. That's what I'm going to do. It's according to the terms of service. What I instead offer you is the fact that if you spent your free attempt and you would like another one, buy the book. Thank you very much for doing it. Send me the receipt in whichever form that is a legit receipt, screenshot that you have the book, something like that. Tell me your username on joinagile.com and I am going to credit you +1. Yeah, one book, one free attempt. I'm going to credit you additional attempt of JoinAgile LACP certification. Okay? If it makes sense to you, great. Hopefully it's good news. Thank you very much for sticking around. Feel rewarded. And I very much appreciate your patronage and generally the fact that the community is growing. It is crazy exciting for me to see, okay? Thank you very much again. Long rant, but there is sense in it. All right, thanks very much, and we will talk soon again, I promise. We will.